introduce ourselves, starting with Mr. Kearns.
Hello, everyone. Kyle Kearns, Director of Community Development for the city.
Sue Schill, City Attorney.
Jennifer Gossick, City Clerk.
Dean Veneman, committee member.
Jeff Benscover, Alderman, District 4.
Jake Catno, Alderman, District 5.
Dennis Pollock, 6th Ward Alderman.
Michael Tim, District 7 Alderman, committee member.
Madeline Palmquist, District 8.
Matt Zacher, Mayor.
Jake Linkforth, Parks and Building Superintendent for the city.
Tim DeSorsi, Finance Director.
Thank you. Item 2, presentation by the Southwood County Humane Society. Come on up.
Oh, there we go.
Now it's really green.
Some of you may be happy, but I'm no longer with the Humane Society as board member or president. I left and I'm now the past president, so I will still be somewhat of a pain, but not as much. Till December, then I go out of that to advisory only, then you'll be rid of me. So this is our new Director of Operations, Denise Mace.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Which I think that's part of what you wanted today, right? To meet Denise and see who's giving you numbers and giving you things, and you're new. You just got elected, okay. Yeah. Congratulations, I think, if you're happy. Mayor asked if I was happy what I had. Yes, Mayor, I am. So, what did you kind of want? Or do you have all the numbers?
Referral was from Mr. Penscover. I'll toss it to him.
We've got 3 months worth of numbers here, and we just wanted to get a preliminary view of the numbers to see where we were for the year, you know, and kind of keep track of things a little better than what's probably been done in the past.
Okay.
We got 4 new city council members on here in the last 13 months. So we're just seeing what's what, and I knew that there was a new director there. I thought it'd be a good time to introduce everybody and kind of watch each other through this process and see where we end up.
Okay.
You know, simple as that.
I can actually hear all of you now. Just last times I had to get hearing aids because I couldn't hear, especially the females. So, yes, now well, that's selective hearing, Madeline. I'll admit to some of that. Well, if you have the stuff, does everybody have those numbers? Do you got an idea of what we're doing and what's going on, or? Eh?
It looks
Okay.
like 57 animals in 3 months' time.
There's one thing that goes on, and I pointed it out at a couple of meetings. No, you want to say something?
No, go right
I'm
ahead.
sorry, you're
No,
more in charge.
You have the knowledge.
One of the things that never gets included, with these numbers, okay, and I pointed out a few times, and we don't track it all, but the numbers of the animals that come to us is the last resort, not the first, and a small part of what we deal with every day. Everyone thinks that, oh, the animals that come in, you take care of them, you this, you that, that's all you do. No. That's only when we can't figure anything else out. The phone calls and everything else that we have to deal with is probably 3 times the size of the numbers you see. And I'll give you one example again, and it just came up, I don't even remember the night now, but it's kind of a funny story, but not funny. I get a call, I fell asleep with my iPad on me, and my iPad gets the phone. It's 3 in the morning, and it's our driver, Meg, who has talked to you. She's up in Mosinee with a dog that was abused. I guess some guy tied it to his truck and dragged it around the city. And then the police got called, we got called, or they got called. I got to say they now, it's not me. And some people didn't have their phones on or whatever. So, of course, who do they call? So I have to authorize that. That is not common, but it does happen. And those are just part of the things. If you like on a weekend, sometimes it's horrible. And the phone calls, especially during a holiday, I told you once, 4th of July is, you're probably gonna get at least 60 to 80 phone calls of trying to match. Because the fireworks, dogs take off, they run away, people find them, all you're doing is matching A to B, so you're on that phone for hours.
And
So-
those numbers are not included on these reports. We do have call logs though on our on-call phone, and we can tell you, how many calls she took in and the different exchanges via text and phone call per jurisdiction, if you want that information.
That's what we were wondering too, is that,
I have a question.
Sure.
So just to clarify, the pink sheets that we receive every month from the Humane Society, those are only animals that physically come through the door.
Correct.
Okay. So if there's an animal, like somebody finds a dog or a cat and they offer to hold it, then you do work calling, making sure the police department, okay. Those items are not logged on our pink sheets. Okay. Is there any way that we can begin to document those?
Yes. Yep,
Just
started already.
great. I think those are helpful in understanding and being able to justify what we're paying for,
Yeah.
which I think all of
Yeah.
us want to be able to say, look, this is how much service we use. And if we're only able to validate the animals that physically come through the door, there's a big gap
Right.
that's missing.
Understandable.
correct?
The other thing is, I don't think anybody is ever happy to see somebody who has volunteered their time to any community service to leave. So thank you for all that you do for our community, and I appreciate all the time you put in.
Well, thank you. That's where my doggies come from. Yes, and that is a good point, and that's like, through these meetings, we're trying to assess the needs of the communities, of what do you want, and what, maybe I would not say maybe, we didn't explain probably as well as we should have, and give you an idea of what's going on. I think you have a better understanding now of what's going on, right? And like I said, it's not that we're hiding or we don't want to provide you, it's just never done that before.
And we have a better understanding now too, through Tim's meetings and discussions with you guys of what you're looking for, the type of information. So like I said, we are starting to log the calls and keeping track of every animal that doesn't come in to the Humane Society, but is dispatched out in the community somewhere and is returned to its owner. We'll provide that information gladly. Do you want that monthly with the pink sheets and the reports?
I think if that's a possibility, we would certainly like it all in one file. From our previous discussions, it definitely seems like this council, including myself, is more data-centric. We're looking for more of, what are we getting out of the contract and seeing that in data versus, just, not to put you guys on the spot all the time, but come up and, present at budget time
Right.
what you guys do, and we want to know all of it and justify the cost. So I think that would be helpful because we can calculate that into the services that we're getting outside of just the pink slips right now, which show animals through the door.
Is there one of you, or how do you, I was just thinking about this before, someone, probably you, sorry Jake, but if there's something you feel we're not doing, that, we have a liaison, so you can, somebody we can contact or say, hey, or, you know what I mean? So we can avoid any problems.
I would say
Or
the mayor.
How do you
probably.
work that?
I would say get a hold of the mayor, or if you have documents to be distributed, probably the clerk.
Okay,
You can also always give me a call too. If you for finance committee, if you guys ever want to come and update us on anything, I'm happy to put you on the agenda. But yeah, otherwise I'd say contact through the mayor's office.
okay, do we have a, with the pictures and lost and found, do we track that?
Yes.
That was the other one, we do that lost and found, have you seen the website? That's another one that those people, like as you said, they will hold the animal. We have a lot of those, and I don't wanna, it's cat season, as you know. And you know what that means.
Just picking up now.
We're going to get 40 at a crack of cats. Because the feral cats have the babies, we get them, and they go to foster, so those numbers, we do show those.
Yeah,
So you're gonna see the fosters and that, that's a huge undertaking. We can run over, at one point, we'll have over 100 cats. And obviously, we're not keeping them at the shelter, so. Last thing, the project to remodel, as you may have known, or have you seen? Do you know? Yes. We're almost done. And we are going to have an open house, and how would we send that? We would like all of you and invite you out. It's gonna be food, this, that, tour the shelter, see what we do. How do you want us to just,
I would
Mayor?
say, yeah, I would say send invite to mayor's office or the clerk's office. If too many of us are there, we're gonna have to notify it as a public meeting. But in that event, we'd all be happy. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but some of us would be happy to come. I personally
Okay.
would be. But
and
yeah,
we're gonna have it at different, we're probably looking at doing it different dates.
Yeah.
So we can accommodate times and dates for people working, so. That's another long-term project, and
Getting close.
any other questions? You got anything else you wanna ask us, or?
I have one more question about the specific information on the admin and discharge forms. I can understand they're very easy to follow, where I can see there was this, I don't know, brown cat found, and then somebody picked it up 2 days later. Beautiful. What does BAS stand for? What does that mean when it's checked on one of the admission and
Where
discharge?
is it on the form?
Yeah, where are we?
It's in the bucket with stray, return, abandoned, DOA, quarantine, surrendered, BAS.
Brock?
Oh.
BAS.
B as in boy, A-S.
Correct.
It's on the A and D sheet.
Yeah. I was just
May
wondering.
I approach the bench, Your Honor?
Yeah.
I can find out quickly for you.
I think it just clicked. I think it might mean born at shelter. But please confirm.
Yes, absolutely. I will confirm and I'll let you guys know.
Thank you.
It could be born at shelter, yeah. I'll find out from Meg.
Clicked.
Thank you. Sorry,
As soon as the words came out of my mouth, I was like, oh, that's what it means.
I've never had to use that box before. So sorry about that.
No worries.
Failed the test.
Yep.
Last comment would just be continuing the clean documentation that we have here. It's easy to see when an animal was found, I don't know, on somebody's front porch step in the city. It's easy for me at least to go through and look at the addresses and see like this is clearly in the city. Make sure that we don't have any human error with where the A&D sheets go.
That
I
never
mean,
happens.
I know. Yeah, so I appreciate the time that it takes to put into these and that your teams are doing to make sure that we have adequate records, so thank you.
Thank you. And we'll continue to add to that to give you more information, more thorough, statistics, if you will, data, so you know exactly what's happening and where the money's going to. Thank you.
But that's a county map, just so you know, that we used to verify, so you can blame the county if the address is wrong.
Oh, Tim.
We use their map.
I've got a quick question, kind of on that, when it says, it just says City of Wisconsin, Rapids, but no address? Can you put something, like the 500 block of 15th Street, or, I mean,
Yeah, we try to get,
Something.
even if someone calls in about a stray animal, we'll ask what the closest intersecting road is. And if they're distraught and they don't always know, that shouldn't happen. By the way, we shouldn't just put city, but we should always
okay.
have it.
I see a few in there, that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking, yeah.
Sorry about that. We'll make sure that that's not
Sure.
on the reports again.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And we do understand that it's where the animal's found, not where it's owned,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Any other questions for the folks from the Humane Society?
I'd like to thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate meeting you all.
Sure.
Can I go back and clean my garage?
Yeah, if we could get then with the pink sheets, if we could start getting call log information.
Yep.
And hopefully an invite out to the open house. But
Absolutely.
Thank you
We'll
for-
talk soon.
thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having us.
And call Denise about everything though.
Thank you, guys.
Item 3, consider and take action on a request from the Park and Recreation Commission for approval to undertake improvements at Witter Field, specifically the purchase of a new baseball field lights in the amount of $200,000 to be funded partially through a request from the commission to use Parks Outlay and Witter Field Outlay funds, which were not previously budgeted. Mr. Klingford.
So yeah, you pretty much said what we're thinking of using for funds. We also have the Legacy Grant Fund that we got $100,000 for. Again, we're always grateful for them. A League Park grant that we received a couple years ago of $18,000 and some change, and then American Legion Softball Association gave us $1,500 for the purchase of the lights. These lights are going on 33 years old. They're failing here and there. We got 6 replaced this week, the halogen ones, so just a matter of time that we won't be able to find parts for them, balances. And when we started this journey back in October, Mayor Zacher can also agree with this, that the price just kept going up and up on these lights, so kind of had to pull the trigger on purchasing these, so.
And Jake, just to clarify, this is not necessarily a request for the additional money from the city itself. This is a request to spend money that is already allotted
Correct.
in different areas.
Yep, that's correct. So everything in front of you, Legacy, the Park Grant, American Legion, Witterfield Outlay, and Park Outlay would be the funds used for this purchase.
Any questions for Jake on the Witterfield lights? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the rafters should contribute towards the lights. I mean, the money out of outlay, that's basically city funds. So that's $90,000 of city funds going towards this project. So I know they've been in conversation with them, but I just think, as basically the sole user for the most part, that we should have them contribute something.
Would anybody like to speak further on that? Any information? I'm not familiar with those talks.
So, like, big picture of this, like Jake was just saying, the lights that are up there, they're dated, but in the end, we could put new ones in for a low cost and keep them going, the way they are. We were asked last year, was it 2 years ago or last year we started to upgrade according to what they needed for ESPN Plus in order to be on, TV and light the field up the way they wanted it. And so Jake went to work. Jake's done a great job trying to figure all this out. In the end, it went from 125 to 200 pretty quick, and just for the lights itself. I think that we're doing a fair job, like we're being fair about it, but I agree that we should be asking, that I think the rafters need to contribute some money to this because it's benefiting them the most. So I guess in the end, you can agree to a certain amount and we can hold the rest out there and then see where they come in at to contribute to it in order to purchase the bulbs. And then we still have to figure out, money for installation. Right now, we're just looking at securing the lights so that we have them. But it's up to you guys if you're going to ask the rafters to contribute money, what that amount would look like, and then, agree to what we're willing to contribute, and then we can ask for the rest.
Go ahead.
Do we currently maintain that park in any way, or do the Raptors pay to maintain, I don't know, the paint, everything else that goes along with the
Yep.
stadium?
So we maintain everything that was previously there. So everything that they've added to the structure, to the park, it comes on them to maintain. So we do like the sprinkler system. We winterize the bathrooms in the fall, then get them going up in the spring. So any structure that was there previous, we maintain.
Okay. And if they decide to leave and not be our local baseball team, we would benefit from the value that they've added to the stadium that we have not paid for at all. Correct?
Yeah, I guess that'd be correct.
Okay.
I don't foresee them ever leaving, but yeah. So, yeah, I guess we would benefit, but then we're stuck with the baseball stadium.
And they never came to us when they wanted to do those upgrades and asked us to pay for them?
Yes.
We have, yeah.
I'm
mean,
just-
we've
wasn't here.
contributed towards the outdoor fence. We've contributed
Scoreboard.
scoreboard. We've did the Lincoln Street parking lot. I think, did we redo that, or maybe just that was lining it? We okay, the fence. We contributed towards field tarp. We I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
The grandstand painting. And
Oh, yeah,
stuff,
painting the
yeah.
grandstand was quite a big ticket item. I would say the city has been putting in as much as the rafters have been putting in over the last 15 years in terms of major items. But they have done, the raft house and the rat trap. Yeah, I mean,
So-
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When you say contribute, like they pay for some, we pay for some, just to be clear.
Well, some items, I would say the fence was more of that outfield fence was probably more of a joint obligation. The grandstand painting was all city, and that was probably $100,000 or more. I don't even
Yeah,
remember.
That was before my time.
Yeah. I mean, I can get this all itemized, what has been done over the last 10 or 15 years. It's all come to council, if there's something that we needed to pay, or it's contained in the lease in terms of the improvements.
I don't need anything itemized. I was just curious if it was like, if it was standard practice for us to work with them to pay for these upgrades, or if it was us or them most of the time. So it sounds like it's normal that we both pay a little bit to do upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, some things, if it's clearly something that's just for them, that might not be of a benefit to other users or to the city necessarily, then generally we would suggest that they pay. If it's something more, for other users, although right now we really don't have any other users other than Assumption Baseball. If it's something more, an improvement that's kind of for everyone, for all the users of the park, then that might be something that we would contribute to also. And then there are some major capital improvement projects that the city was responsible for, like the grandstand painting, which was a few years ago.
Jake or Tim, or could you, because it seems like there's maybe it's not straightforward. Like we do collect rent for the year. Does that cover? what does that cover in terms of expenses that we pay out of it? And do we have anything left at the end of the year, or do we actually kick in? How does that play out?
So they do pay a lease every year. This year is $26,000, which basically just kind of goes back to us budgeting for what we spend there for the season for like utilities, maintenance, that type of thing. So there's probably never any leftover funds.
Yeah, the annual operating budget is about $51,000, and I think that was a 25 budget, and I think the lease payment for this year is 28,000.
So in essence, we're contributing money every year to make sure that the rafters are successful. Okay. And again, I do want, everybody that loves the rafters that, I also love the rafters. I think they're great. I'm glad they're here. We try to support them, in our private life also. I think we should continue to work with them as a city, but at the same time, I think everybody should contribute their fair share to make this happen.
Thank you. So I'm looking at about $120,000 that is grant money. So that would not necessarily be a commitment from the city. Jake, you also mentioned, and I think you did as well. So we're purchasing the lights. There's still an installation cost. What is that? How much is that going to be?
We're not too sure yet. I know we've been working with, speaking with Water and Light, see if they could help us out that way. So it'll be after the seasons, it won't be before the season this year, so.
Or do we have a ballpark on that? Is it? 'Cause I'm just trying to figure out a way to look at what they could do.
Right.
What we
We're
can
probably
do.
looking at probably an extra 30.
Okay. So what is everyone comfortable with? I mean, there's 120,000 there from grants, which would leave 80 from the city. I believe we got those grants, which is why we would allocate them today. Do we want to say that we're okay with the 120,000 for the grants and we go ask the rafters for the other 80, or are you fine with what's proposed today? What's the general feeling?
So if what's left is 82,128, if we split it in half and rafters paid half of that and we paid half, the rest then is the grants. An option.
Obviously, we don't know if they have it.
Well, yeah, that's why I don't want to say 80.
I mean,
but-
a lot of those improvements, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sue and stuff, but a lot of those improvements they were talking about, there was a lot of money that came in when Ashley's ran it, because when the Ashleys owned it, before they sold it. They've had 2 sales recently, right? So before Ashley.
No, they bought it, they bought it from the original owners in 2020. The Furniture and Appliance Mart.
Yeah.
Yep, that was in beginning of 2020.
They only had it for that many years? I thought they had it.
And they still own it. The original Raptors came in 2010, and then that ownership group owned it until 2020, and then they sold to the current group, and they still own it, right? I mean, so they've owned it for 5 years.
Ashley still own it? I thought they sold it.
No, they still own it.
So the Fonte family still
Yeah.
owns it, who owns Ashley and Furniture and Appliance
Okay,
Mart.
I thought they sold it again. Okay.
No.
So it's the same owner since 20?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, okay, I thought they were out. I apologize then.
Yeah.
Then we know they have money.
Yeah, and they're doing a great job.
Oh, no, they have an island.
Yeah.
They have an island in freaking.
Yeah, I just want you to know too, they're doing a great job. They're committed to the team. They're committed to the, you know, the community. So whatever you guys decide, you know, in the end, it's got to go to them, and they have to decide too what they want and where they go from. So.
Excuse me, Jake, we were talking before, it was something about, there's not much chance of them moving to, say, Point, because that's too close to Wausau, right?
Right, that's correct.
I don't think they have, I mean, it's not like they really have a good threat to move. Maybe Marshfield, you know.
Yeah.
They should be contributing more.
All right, so Alderman Veneman is in the opinion they should be contributing.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'm okay with the grants and then splitting the outlay, so they would pay half of that, which is 41,064. And we paid the other half.
So we would make that proposal to them and see what they think. You got the math on that? Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. To make a motion that we accept the grants for the Witterfield lighting project and split the 82,128 and the outlay in half with the rafters, so they would pay 41,064 as well.
I'll second. So we got a motion by Mr. Tim, second by myself. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Item 4, consider and take action on a recommendation from the Park and Recreation Department to review bids and consider approval of the low qualified bidder for the zoo otter exhibit. Jake?
All right, this is something that myself and engineering department has been working on since probably last December. Just putting the bid sheets out and getting it out to the public bidding. As you can see with the packet, it kind of breaks down the top 3 bidders for the River Otter exhibit. Ascension Construction being the lowest qualified bidder, Altman Construction being second, and Eagle Construction being third. So with that low bid at $219,520, with all the other projects that we've done at the zoo, we're still sitting fairly well with $140,000 left over that will be mainly being used for the playground installation. So, so with this bid, the low bid, we're still fine with what's been budgeted for this project.
And for those watching, when would be the expected opening date for the exhibit? Or rain?
To be determined, but this summer.
This summer?
Yes.
Any questions on the bids?
I'll make a motion to award to the qualified low bidder.
Second?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name of it.
Ascent.
Ascent, a motion to accept the bid from Ascent Construction. Pardon? Oh, yeah, what's it? Where's the exact amount? Hang on, I'm sorry. Thanks. 219,520.
Yes. Second.
Thanks.
Motion by Veneman, second by Tim to accept the bid from Ascent Construction for $219,520. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
Motion passes 3-0. Item 5, consider and take action on giving a quit claim deed to Wood County, transferring the former county annex building back to the county, address 184 2nd Street North. Mr. Kearns.
Thank you. This item was discussed last month in regards to the county's interest in this block and their pursuit of a few other adjacent buildings, including the Four Stools Bar and the two smaller office buildings. Those buildings are slated for demolition as soon as this month, potentially, and as well as potentially roping in the former Wood County Jail on the back of the courthouse. They have shown interest in this annex facility. They previously owned it, and it was part of a larger deal. They were essentially going to throw in some cash for the city to pay the demolition fee, but now they're willing to do that themselves. But in order to do that, the cleanest way is just to quit claim the property back to them, and then they will rope it into their larger demo package with the other facilities. And again, their timeline is to try to get rolling in May or June for those demolitions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have. Otherwise, we are recommending approval as staff. Thank you.
Any questions or comments on the quitclaim deed for the annex building?
I do a motion to approve given the county quitclaim deed, transferring the former county annex building back to the county, address 184 2nd Street North.
Second.
All right, motion by Tim, second by Veneman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Item 6, consider and take action on an agreement to obtain the former Northern Steel Castings property from Wood County, address 330 9th Avenue South.
Thank you again. So this also was discussed last month. A little more discussion in regards to this item, but it ultimately stems from the city's interest to play a proactive role in the redevelopment of the former Northern Steel Castings site, also known as the Foundry site, over off of Goggins. And the county, in partnership with the city, obtained the site about 2 years ago due to tax delinquency. And we have since pursued different mechanisms and will continue to pursue mechanisms through the DNR and the WEDC to cover the costs for Phase 1 and Phase 2 site assessment and potential redevelopment activities, remediational activities in the event contamination is found. We're ready to take the next step, which is a Phase 2 site investigation, and the county is itching to transfer the property. So I think we're at a point where the Phase 1 is complete. It does call for a Phase 2, and we are looking to submit this offer for $1 to the county. And the lower dollar amount is somewhat justified here with the potential of there being hazardous contamination that the city in good faith has the intent to clean up and utilize those loan programs at the WEDC and DNR. So with that, staff is supportive. We've put a lot of effort into this. We've already received some grant dollars for planning initiatives for this property. There's a lot of neighborhood interest. It's been in the news a few times. So again, I as the Community Development Director, am recommending that this is a good next step for us to continue to play a proactive role in cleaning this property up and getting it back on the tax rolls. So again, we are recommending approval of this sale agreement.
Kyle, can you speak to Phase 2? So if the city were to purchase the property, what Phase 2 and what the future of the project would entail and cost?
Yeah, so the DNR has said that the Phase 1 grant that we obtained also covers Phase 2 work. The difference between Phase 1 and Phase 2 is that Phase 2 is on-site soil boring investigations. So a contractor's hired to actually go on-site, dig soil samples, analyze those samples, and identify if there's any contamination and what, where and how is that those contaminants confined or where they exist on-site. The DNR has said that, again, under our current grant, we can seamlessly via email request that phase two. And then they can move pretty quickly and possibly even use the same phase one contractor. So the hope is that that phase two will begin this spring and continue into the summer, and we could have some results in the next couple of months. Once we have those, then we can continue to apply for other grants such as the WEDC Brownfield Redevelopment Grant, which can cover costs for building demolition. There are building facilities on the site, and so the hope is that we can get dollars to demo those buildings, and then there are additional dollars to redevelop, clean up the site if there is known contamination. As I prefaced last month, because these are grant programs, you know, there are eligibility requirements. I think we would meet all those, but they are competitive in nature. The WEDC and DNR are very committed to the city of Wisconsin Rapids because we have not been grant recipients for a lot of dollars. A lot of those dollars have funneled into other communities for other larger projects. So I think they are both great partners, and I'm hopeful that we will get those grant dollars. But if we do not, we do have this property identified within the downtown TIF district, and we can certainly use TIF dollars if it's prior to the expenditure period in that TIF district as a means to also clean up the site. Does that answer your question in terms of the process and timeline and funding sources?
You mentioned the sources, you didn't mention the costs. So those sources may be available. If they're not, what is the ballpark cost?
So our phase one grant, I believe it covers $30,000. The phase one was a few $1,000s. It's more so looking at Sanborn maps, previous uses, and creating a report based off of the history of the property. You really start incurring costs when you bring a soil, digger on site, and you start taking those core samples, and then they're analyzed in labs. I still think it could likely fall within that $30,000 total range for the phase one and phase two. Remediation is completely dependent upon the type of contaminants and the location, right? How big of plume it is, where it exists in the soil profile, has it entered the water table at all? So remediation is very hard to distinguish or identify what the cost could be. The building demolition, I think, also is pretty tough. We did have Paul from the street department put together some samples on if the street department did it. Ultimately, what came out of that, I don't recall what the total number was, but was that the steel structure that exists on site would need a professional to take it down via crane, plasma cutting, and so forth, which is beyond the capabilities of the street department. But again, the WEDC has dollars available in their brownfield redevelopment to cover the cost of demo. So if we were to receive that grant, it could cover the cost. I believe it's an 80-20 split. So 80% WEDC, 20% would fall on the city. So again, we'd either look to use TIF dollars to cover those costs, or we could potentially even use the monies we receive from the DNR as the match. Sometimes you can finagle it in a way where each grant can be used as the match for the other.
So it would be 80-20 of what over the life of the project?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't. Yeah, again, it's dependent upon the type of contaminants. Like chlorinated solvents, dry cleaner solutions are much more difficult to clean up. Most of the time, landfills won't take them. You have to aerate them, and you have to turn them over, so you have to have a storage ground for that. I don't think we're going to have that chlorinated solvent here on site. I think if there's anything on site, it's petroleum. Typically, you just excavate any sort of petroleum-type product, and you usually can landfill that. But again, it's dependent upon how many tons, if it exists, how much it is, tipping fees and so forth for the landfill, backfilling the area, and then obviously there's costs to the building demolition as well. So unfortunately, I don't even have a ballpark number for you.
I thought what was mentioned last month is it could certainly be $1 million over the whole life of the project, including demolition.
I don't recall saying $1 million. I think I maybe said 100,000. I think it it could potentially swell to a couple 100,000, again, depending on the contaminants and depending on how much of it exists, if any. I also noted last month that I'm skeptical that anything exists, just given the nature of the foundry. They created the sand casts, so they had resins and glues on site. They didn't really deal with any metal or anything like that. They did have machinery on site too, though, that did have hydraulic fluid and other petroleum-type products, but most of that was indoors, and I think most of the floors are concrete in there, so any spill is likely contained within the confines of the building. What I don't know is when the county garage was there, were there tractors, was there a dumping ground back when there was a garage facility there? And we won't know that until we're able to take those core soil samples.
And demolition, I mean, we mentioned a crane, an outside company, all that would be potentially only a couple $100,000.
I think it'd likely be less than that, yeah.
I missed, remediation cost. We won't know remediation cost until we have the soil samples. Is that part of phase 1?
Phase 2.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I will note, I noted it last month, that these programs through the WDNR and the WEDC do not exist for the private sector. So the former owners could not access these programs. These are strictly for government entities and agencies, most of which in every community around us and throughout the state play a proactive role in cleaning up these brownfield sites because they just sit and they rot away, right? Because for whatever reason, there are no funds available unless it's in the hands of that government entity to clean up the site. This is the first step, right, is having control of the property, to pursue that cleanup and whatever it entails, right? Building demolition, remediation, excavation, backfilling, and so forth, right? With the ideal goal that we will then attract a developer to build on the property. And we have one preliminary plan that identifies what the property could develop as, and we're now diving into that further with another consultant through a DNR grant that we got that will identify more of an operational plan on, again, finding a private equity investor, maximizing use on the site, and trying to create as much tax value as we can, right, to hopefully offset any costs of TIF dollars that would go into this.
Final comment would be that grants are competitive, Kyle mentioned. The world of grants now with federal funding, state funding being limited, those grants are even more competitive because there's less to apply for. So it's a little bit of a bigger gamble than it would be in the past with competition in the marketplace for grants.
Kyle, could you, just knowing we have our own construction company, you and I have talked about this before, but could you explain to everybody why we can't do this project ourselves? I mean, we could physically do it ourselves pretty quick and have this eyesore out of our community, but what does that change in the aspect of the big picture of the grants?
Yeah, so I've pursued the grants because they exist. I feel like I wouldn't be doing the taxpayers' due diligence if we didn't pursue these grant opportunities. I know there were some neighbors that wanted us to just use city dollars or TIF dollars right off the bat because then we can determine the timeline for the cleanup, for the building demolition. I'm of the belief if there's monies out there and there's dollars out there that we can access, I've heard alders mention it. I think there are a few on the board that are trying to pursue those grants. I feel like it's my job to do that first, even if it might prolong the process. I think when this first started 2 years ago, I noted this could be a 4 to 5 year process from starting to apply for the phase 1 grant, which took a year to obtain, to having it ready for cleanup and or engaging with the developer could be a good 4 to 5 years. We're in the 2.5 year mark now. It's good to know that the DNR is willing to extend our grant and roll it right into phase 2. I'd like to think the WEDC is a little more nimble than the DNR. So when we do apply for that brownfield redevelopment grant, I think they'll be a lot quicker to turn that around and to fund it. But But there are other things, again, from a remediation standpoint, there are remediation grants that could be delayed as well. And I guess it would be up to the council if we found known contamination and we did not want to wait for the grant timeline and we just wanted to use TIF dollars because of the expenditure period that was nearing, I think 2026 now is, or 27? September 27 is when that expenditure period ends in the TIF district. So I think at a minimum, we'd want to stay on that timeline because that, once that expenditure period ends, we cannot use those TIF dollars unless we do a new overlay TIF or possible extension. I know there's some talks in the legislature about making some amendments to the TIF district and TIF law. But as of right now, typically once that expenditure period closes, we cannot use those dollars.
So if we did take it down with our resources, we would lose the grants, and so they have a specific companies that they would prefer us to use with the grant money. Is that correct?
So for the DNR, they do have preferred contractors. I did not get to select what contractor was doing the phase 1 and now the potential phase 2. The WEDC, I believe we would have the opportunity to select a demo contractor, possibly use, city resources as well to try to reduce those costs. But if we were to demo the building, we cannot now apply after the fact. We would be ineligible. We couldn't apply after the building's down to get money to demolish the building, right? You have to get that approval up front. They're very strict about that before you incur any costs related to that approval.
All right, thanks.
Silly question, why do we need to own the property in order to apply for the grants and proceed?
So at this point, at every step, the DNR has asked for us to have the county sign off, right? So the county, in good faith, has said, city, we believe you. We trust that your intentions are good, that you have goodwill, and you're going to pursue eventual ownership of the site. And that was a direction that I gave them because of feedback we had in a few closed session items from council members and the administration. I think they're at a point where they've been stuck with properties in the past in Marshfield and Port Edwards, and they don't want to get in this same situation where they're stuck with a brownfield site because they don't have the staff to play a more proactive role in redeveloping it. So I know they're itching to get rid of it, and there was talk last fall when they actually put the site out for bid that somebody could have bid on it and actually bought it, and then we would have lost control. That still has existed. Somebody could come and they could bid on the property. Even though the county's not actively listing it, it's technically a property that is for sale. They have to statutorily offer it for sale, and they did last fall. There were no bids, thankfully, but I think it's just in our best interest, and we're able to fast-track the timeline by kind of removing the county as the ownership entity and for us to step in. And there are certain liability protections that we have now that we have a phase 1 in place.
Thanks.
I would make a motion to take action on the agreement to obtain the former Northern Steel Castings property from Wood County, address 3039th Avenue South.
I'll second.
Motion by Tim, second by Veneman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I am opposed, so that's 2-1. Item 7, consider and take action on the recommendation of disallowance of a claim from Joanne Olson and attorney Todd Korb on behalf of Siwana Bambaji for injuries and damages allegedly sustained after a welfare check call to Ms. Bambaji's home, where city police officers responded on a call for assistance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if anyone had any questions. I provided you with information on the claim and the recommendation for disallowance on this claim. Does anyone have any questions?
So staff recommendation is to disallow the claim.
Right, and the insurance company and the adjuster and defense counsel, yes.
I'll make a motion to disallowance of the claim from Joanne Olson and attorney Todd Korb on behalf of Sawanye Bombaji for injuries and damages allegedly sustained after a welfare check call to Miss Bombaji's home, where city police officers responded on a call for assistance.
Motion by Tim, second by Catnaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. Item 8, consider and take action on the recommendation of disallowance of claims from Curtis Orlowski for alleged damages sustained during a traffic stop by city police officers. Attorney Schill.
Yes, this is another claim which I provided you with. Our insurance company has retained defense counsel. Counsel has investigated the matter and recommending that we disallow the claim. I would also recommend disallowing this claim.
All right, motion to disallow the claim from Curtis Orlowski for alleged damages sustained during a traffic stop by city police officers.
Second.
Motion by Catnaw, second by Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Item 9, consider for approval the appointment of Mittal Patel as successor agent for the retail Class A fermented malt beverages and retail Class A intoxicating liquor licenses for Prayosha Incorporated, Kelly's Liquor Store for the premises located at 2131 8th Street South.
I'll make the motion to approve the appointment of Mittal Patel as the successor agent for the retail Class A fermented malt beverages and retail Class A intoxicating liquor licenses for Prayosha Inc., DBA Kelly's Liquor Store, for the premises located at 2131 8th Street South.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Veneman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you say?
You said aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-0. Consider a request from Wisconsin Rapids Ranger Baseball Incorporated, Quentin Ellis, agent for a 6-month retail Class B fermented malt beverage license from June 1st to November 30th, 2025 for the premises located at the Rapids Area Sports Complex, 1801 16th Street South. I'll make a motion to,
Hey, Jake.
yeah,
I just have a question. Has this been approved ever before, seeing as this is a school property? Is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so that's
they've done
okay?
this. Mhm.
Right, all that is required is that the superintendent approves it.
Good.
Did you make a motion?
I'll make one now. I'll make a motion to approve the request from Wisconsin Rapids Ranger Baseball for a Class B fermented malt beverage license from June 1st to November 30th, 2025 for the premise located at Rapids Area Sports Complex, 1801 16th Street South.
Second.
Motion by Catnaw, second by Veneman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Item 11, consider a request from Wisconsin Rapids Women's Softball Association, Jamie McDonald, agent, for a 6-month retail Class B fermented malt beverage license from May 21st to November 21st, 2025, for the premises located at Mead Field, 311 17th Avenue South, for the women's concession stand and women's softball diamond area.
Jake? So we need to move this one to next month. They did not get all of their paperwork in, so we can't consider it right now.
Thank you. So no action will be taken on item 11. We'll move on to item 12, initial review of the 2025-2026 retail alcohol license renewals.
So the licensing period for alcohol licenses goes from July 1st of one year to June 30th of the following year. So everybody who currently holds a liquor license that wants to continue to hold a liquor license has to reapply every year. So this is the initial review. The final review and approval will be next month. If you'd like, I can tell you how many licenses for each type we have, if you want any more information. Sure. There are 2 types of licenses, 2 classes of licenses. One is a Class A, that is for businesses where you purchase the alcohol and you take it away from the premises. So think of your gas stations, convenience stores, grocery stores. The other type of license is a Class B license. Those are licenses where you consume the alcohol on premises. Think of restaurants, bars, etc. And then within those licenses, there are beer licenses and intoxicating liquor licenses. So for the Class A, which is takeaway, we have combination beer and liquor licenses. We have 25 of those that are asking to be renewed. It's not technically a combination license. They're separate licenses, but they're applying for them together. So 25 of those. We have 4 Class B licenses that are beer only. We have 1 license that is requesting a Class B beer and a Class C wine license. That one's a restaurant. We have 2 6-month beer licenses. Both of these were on the agenda tonight. So, and then we have the 41 Class B beer and liquor licenses. That is the one that has a quota. We are at quota. We are allowed to issue up to 41 Class B liquor licenses. We have issued that many. And then we have 3 Class B reserve licenses. Reserve licenses are licenses over the quota. We are allowed up to 5 of them. We have issued 3, and 1 was just approved, so we have 1 left. Right now, we have renewals for 3 of them because the 1 was just issued. So, any questions?
Does something get sent out to them, or do they just know to renew it, or?
We send the application information to them with the instructions on what they need to do to renew it.
Okay.
And then it's up to them to fill the paperwork out and bring it in. I've gotten a very good response. I would say probably at least 2/3 have returned their paperwork already. I gave them a deadline of April 30th so that I could have as many as possible for this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking for approval of those who have completed their renewal?
We don't need to do that this month. It's just basically a touch base, just if I had ones that were delinquent in property taxes or for another reason, we might look at denying them. This would be the time when I would bring that up, but so far I don't have any of those, because then they would have the right to appeal it next month. But so far, so good.
Excellent. Anything else on the initial review?
When you say delinquent on property taxes, we mean for the place of business, not the individual, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It would be for the place of business. yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to item 13, consider for approval a proposal from Ehlers for a TID 7 project plan amendment.
Sure. You all received my memo and the proposal from Ellers, and basically what this would be doing is our TID number 7 is our downtown TID. The primary reasons for looking at a project plan amendment at this time is twofold. One, right now with the projects that we kind of have on our radar for the TID is, basically the Riverwall maintenance project. But other than that, we don't really have anything that's currently on the radar, like shovel-ready or anything like that, that would be contained in the existing project plan. And right now, I'm projecting out that even with the Riverwall project, we'll have about a $3.3 million surplus in that TID if we don't expend any more TID dollars on any eligible projects. And also, we're bumping up in that the expenditure period where you're allowed to incur expenditures for the TID expires in September of 2027. So we have a real compressed timeline of where we could do some projects. And so I'm proposing to amend the TID because we do have some projects in the downtown area, some street constructions in the Triangle Belt, mainly East Jackson Street, which I would like to incorporate into that project plan, because a portion of that street is within the boundaries, but you're also allowed to go a half mile outside the boundaries for any TID projects. And I think adding those projects in there would give us flexibility in the next couple of years to utilize those TID dollars to fund those projects, especially the Jackson Street project for the reconstruction. The street reconstruction is about $2.1 million. Also, I'd like to, in that same time, amend the budget for the Riverwall maintenance. I think when we did the project plan a number of years ago, I think it was estimated at $360,000, and right now we're looking at just over $1 million for that maintenance. The project plan does allow for, these are estimates, obviously, at the time to go over, but something that significant, I'd like to amend it so we don't run into issues when the TID is audited at its expenditure period end. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Tim, being that some of the street construction plans will come out of the TID, that will mean we will bond less in a certain year that project is done?
Right. With the street construction like Jackson Street brings such a significant amount, $2.1 million, obviously, the expenditure period ends in 2027, but 5 years after the expenditure period, we're able to recoup 5 years of increment to help fund that. So there will be a cash flow issue in there that we have to address in the project plan, whether it's a short-term borrowing that's going to be repaid by the TIF, or if we advance funds from the general fund and then the TID will reimburse us as those increments come back in. So it's possible that for the Jackson Street, we wouldn't have to borrow if we just advance some of our reserves from the general fund that would be reimbursed.
So the result of that is either, would it show a reduced budget or a reduced bonding for a year?
It possibly could.
Or would we do more road?
Depending on the, obviously, whenever we look at our construction projects every year, we only have X amount of capacity that we can do with our construction crew. So depending on the nature and of what type of utility work is there, what our crews can do, and what obviously the actual paving of the streets done by a contractor. But each year when we look at our street construction and utility installation, it's all dependent on that we only have so much capacity to do X amount of work in any one construction season.
Thank you.
And then just for the process for this, obviously, if this proposal is approved here tonight and ultimately at council, basically what would happen is that the planning commission would have a public hearing on the project. Obviously we put the feasibility analysis together for it, and then on the amended project plan, it would go to the planning commission for a public hearing, and then ultimately to the council resolution to approve the amended project plan. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the joint review board, which is representatives of all the taxing jurisdictions have final say on whether they approve it or not.
Jake?
Oh,
I just want to note from a community development standpoint, we support this. This jives well with our recently completed downtown master plan. There will be a final draft that'll be before council in May. And I think it bodes well with some of the conversations we've had about downtown and how we can create better development opportunities. And so utilizing these dollars out of the TIF to reduce the burden on the taxpayers, I think is appropriate. And so in community development, we are very supportive as well.
There's nothing else. I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from Ayers for a TID 7 project plan amendment.
Second?
Motion by Catnos, second by Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Item 14, audit of the bills. I got it. Somewhere here. Motion to approve checks 25419 to 25796.
Second?
Motion by Catton, second by Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Item 15, set next meeting date. The first Tuesday in June is the 3rd. So the 3rd at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. So the next meeting of the Finance and Property Committee will be June 3rd at 5 p.m. Item 16 is adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Veneman, second by Tim to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 6:13 p.m.